Okay, let's unpack this. If you think back just, I don't know, 2 decades ago, seeking a partner usually involved, well, your social circle, right?
Or maybe a shared hobby, maybe work.
Or if you were lucky, like a kind but maybe meddling aunt.
Yeah, that feels familiar.
No. That meddling aunt has been, well, completely displaced by code. I mean, the most prolific and arguably the most powerful matchmaker in the world. It's an algorithm.
But that's really the stunning reality of modern courtship, isn't it? The script is totally flipped. We're not talking about some niche thing anymore.
Not at all.
By the late 2010s, online dating had officially surpassed introductions through friends or family. It became the most popular way for U.S. heterosexual couples to meet. And this transformation, this complete redesign of how humans find love, how they connect, it's driven almost entirely by artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
Same.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We want to move past the superficial idea of just, swiping left or right.
Yeah, there's so much more going on underneath.
We're dissecting the actual technical machinery. The machine learning systems that are trying to predict your attraction, the computer vision analyzing your photos.
And now generative AI that's even coaching your conversations.
Right. And then thinking about the profound societal and psychological effects that follow when we essentially hand over our love lives to code.
So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut to understanding this complex technical landscape and also the massive ethical implications of this whole algorithmic adventure. We're basically looking under the hood of digital romance.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. The technical core, the AI matchmaking engine. At the heart of every, successful dating platform is a recommendation system. It's built on machine learning.
That's the engine, yeah.
It's what decides which profile you see next. So what's the sophisticated difference between what these algorithms are doing and, say, just a simple filter-like filtering by age and location?
Okay, so the difference is really about predicting mutual success. A simple filter just narrows the field, right? Like you said, age, location, maybe a couple of interests.
Basic stuff.
Exactly. But these machine learning systems, they're trying to solve a much, much harder problem. They're predicting whom you will be attracted to.
Okay.
And critically, who will be attracted to you in return.
The mutual part, that's key.
It's crucial. This dual prediction, the likelihood of a mutual match, that's the platform's highest value outcome. That's what they're optimizing for.
So how do they do that? What are they looking at?
Well, they're constantly analyzing your history, your pauses on profiles, even your swiping speed, believe it or not.
Really? Swiping speed?
Yeah, and your success rates, which swipes turn into matches, which matches turn into conversations, all of that feeds into creating this prediction of resonance between two people.
And we see platforms using some surprisingly sophisticated techniques, sometimes even academic ones, to achieve this mutual pairing.
Yeah.
A key example you hear about is Hinge.
Right, Hinge.
They use a component rooted in the Gale-Shapley stable matching algorithm. I mean, that's Nobel Prize-winning economics stuff. Not exactly what you'd first think of for a dating app.
It sounds super intimidating, I know, but the core concept is actually quite elegant. The Gale-Shapley algorithm, it's all about finding a stable pairing solution.
Stable? What does that mean in this context?
It means finding a set of matches where basically no person in a pair would prefer to leave their current match for someone else who's available. And crucially, that other person would also prefer them back.
Okay, so it's trying to prevent regret, almost. Like, I wish I was matched with that person instead.
Essentially, yes. It tries to eliminate those tempting alternatives. So no two people outside the matched pairs would rather be with each other than their current partners. It aims for maximum overall satisfaction within the constraints.
Gotcha. So Hinge uses this structure.
Well, they combine this stable matching framework with machine learning inputs. So your observed preferences from your swipes and interactions, that feeds the algorithm, and it uses that to produce their daily most compatible suggestion.
Wow, the most compatible feature.
Exactly. The AI is constantly learning not just who you liked, but which profiles you liked that also liked you back. And it refines its suggestion logic based on the characteristics of those successful, mutually agreeable matches. It's a very curated, data-driven choice aimed at efficiency, trying to cut through the noise.
That stable, efficiency-focused approach, it feels quite different from, say, the early days of Tinder, which really pioneered mass-market swiping.
Oh, completely different philosophy.
For years, everyone was fixated on Tinder's internal ranking system, that ELO desirability score.
Yeah.
But that's gone now, isn't it?
It is, thankfully. Yeah, Tinder quietly phased out the static ELO score around 2019. I think they realized that a fixed score just wasn't flexible enough for something as fluid as human desire, which changes based on context, mood.
Right, it's not like chess rankings.
Exactly. So they shifted to a proprietary dynamic machine learning driven system. It's focused on creating more of a real-time taste profile for each user.
Okay, dynamic, real time. How does that system work compared to the old fixed score? What makes it real time?
Well, it heavily prioritizes engagement and recency. That's key.
Meaning how active you are.
Precisely. The new system heavily weights factors like how recently you were active, the quality of your profile inputs like having a bio and varied photos, and your activity velocity, how often you're swiping and matching.
So if you just logged in, you get boosted.
Pretty much. You'll be shown to more people, and the people you see will likely be more active too. They want to connect active users.
Makes sense.
And the algorithm also monitors whether a match actually leads to a conversation. That's a big signal. If you swipe right on someone and they swipe right back, that interaction is fed back into the system immediately to update the ranking of similar profiles for both of you.
Ah, so it updates your taste profile on the fly.
Exactly. It's less about a permanent rank, like ELO tried to be, and much more about continuous behavioral analysis tailored to your current engagement level and recent successes.
Okay, so the swipe is the main behavioral input. What other kinds of data are fueling these systems beyond just basic demographics? We know some platforms try to quantify personality and values, right?
Definitely. We see sort of two distinct strategies emerging there. First, you've got the deep psychometric data approach, really pioneered by eHarmony.
Right. The famous questionnaire.
Exactly. They use that really lengthy questionnaire, scoring users on dozens of what they call dimensions of compatibility, over 100 items across like 29 different areas, things like emotional temperament, social style, core values.
That feels almost like an academic research project applied to dating.
It kind of is. They're trying to find these enduring, deep-seated compatibility signals that they believe translate to long-term relationship success. It's very deliberate.
Okay, that's one approach. What's the other?
Then you have Occupid. They take a more, let's say, decentralized, almost crowdsourced approach with their massive bank of optional questions.
Right, a Cupid users can answer literally thousands of questions, can't they? About everything from politics to like how they feel about pineapple on pizza.
Exactly. And that's what makes their data so potentially rich. The system calculates a weighted compatibility percentage based on the answers you choose to share. And crucially, users assign importance levels to each question.
Ah, the weighting is important.
Very. You might say, I strongly prefer someone who shares my political views and give that a high weight. But then you might say whether they like cilantro or not, well, that doesn't really matter, and give it a low weight.
So the AI isn't just matching raw answers.
No, it's matching prioritized values based directly on user input. It's not just about shared interests. It's about aligning on the things you personally deem most important.
That's a really key distinction. Now, what about the actual text in profiles? The bios, the prompt answers? That's got to be incredibly important data, too. That's where natural language processing NLP comes in, right?
Absolutely. NLP is huge here. And the level of sophistication has really jumped.
How so? It's not just keyword spotting.
Not anymore, not really. Early systems might have just flagged simple keywords like hiking or travel. But the current generation uses much more sophisticated techniques, particularly things like vectorization and sentiment analysis.
Okay, vectorization. That sounds pretty technical. Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. Think of it like this. The NLP system translates all the words and phrases in your bio and your answers into mathematical vectors. Essentially, it's plotting your profile in a vast, multidimensional conceptual space.
Okay.
So profiles that use different words but convey similar meanings, like, say, one person talks about exploring mountain trails and another writes about finding solitude while backpacking. Those profiles might get mapped closely together in this vector space, even if the keywords aren't identical.
So it's understanding the underlying concept, not just the surface words.
Exactly. It allows the AI to find deeper, more thematic compatibility signals than just simple keyword overlap. It's connecting conceptual dots between how two individuals express their personalities and interests through language.
Wow. That complexity really underscores how AI is performing this incredibly detailed pattern recognition across text, behavior, and stated preferences, all to predict that resonance.
Precisely. And this detailed pattern recognition isn't just limited to text and clicks. It extends crucially into the visual realm.
Which brings us neatly to part two, beyond the bio, we need to talk about computer vision and the rise of generative AI, because AI isn't just reading our words, it's analyzing our photos pretty deeply now.
Oh yeah, computer vision is now totally central to the user experience on these platforms. It's doing two main things with images: assessing attraction cues and handling verification.
Let's start with attraction. How does AI analyze a photo for, well, attractiveness signals?
So systems like Tinder use what they call anonymized visual cues, from photos to tailor recommendations. It's not just recognizing a face, it's analyzing the whole scene, the environment, the activity depicted, even things like photo quality and composition.
Okay, so if I consistently swipe right on profiles where people are, say, at breweries with friends, the system notices that kind of social setting.
Exactly. It notices the setting and maybe the group dynamic, the casual vibe, and it starts weighting future recommendations toward profiles with photos showing similar social environments or compositions. It's learning your visual aesthetic preferences by observation.
It's learning my type visually based on the photos I like.
Pretty much. It looks for patterns in lighting, color palettes, whether people are smiling broadly or looking more reserved, whether they're pictured outdoors versus indoors, in groups or alone. You don't have to explicitly state, I like outdoorsy people, but if you keep liking photos of people wearing hiking gear on mountaintops,
The system gets the message.
the system interprets that visual pattern as a strong positive signal for you.
Okay, that makes sense. But you mentioned verification. That seems like a more critical, maybe less subjective use of computer vision, combating deception like catfishing.
Absolutely essential. Photo verification is now pretty standard across the major apps like Tinder and Bumble. It relies heavily on facial recognition AI.
How does that work for the user?
Typically, a user takes an in-app selfie, usually mimicking a specific pose shown on screen. The AI algorithm then compares the biometric data, the facial geometry of that live selfie, against the photos uploaded to their profile.
And if they don't match?
If they don't match sufficiently, the profile doesn't get that little blue check mark, the verification badge. It's a really necessary high-tech safeguard against people using fake or outdated photos. It builds trust.
Now, here's where things get a bit, well, controversial, maybe.
Hmm.
We're seeing some startups pushing computer vision claims that seem to go way beyond verification, suggesting they can quantify personality or attraction just from facial features.
Yeah, this is where we definitely enter territory that many experts would call, perhaps charitably, algorithmic wizardry, or maybe less charitably, pseudoscience dressed up as AI.
Like which ones?
Well, take a company like SciMatch. They make this really ambitious claim that their AI can infer a user's big five personality traits. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, just from analyzing a single selfie.
From one photo. How?
They claim that specific facial geometry, ratios between features, things like that, correlate statistically with these complex personality traits. The scientific backing for that is, let's just say, highly debated.
And what about that app, Iris?
Mm.
Their premise is also based on analyzing subtle facial patterns, isn't it?
Yes. Iris claims its AI learns your specific type by analyzing subtle facial characteristics you might not even be consciously aware you favor. Things like the precise shape of a jawline, the width of a smile, the spacing of the eyes, micro features.
So the idea is it identifies these tiny, maybe unconscious visual signals that drive your attraction.
That's the pitch. And then it ranks new profiles based on how closely they match those specific, subtle facial features it thinks you prefer.
The goal is clearly to quantify the very intangible subjective process of human attraction. But, as you hinted, we have to stress that the scientific basis for reliably inferring complex personality traits or predicting deep compatibility from a single static photograph remains extremely dubious, however advanced the pattern matching tech is.
Absolutely. It really highlights this powerful, market-driven desire to find the ultimate secret sauce for matching, even if it means venturing into claims that lack robust scientific validation. The pursuit of quantifiable attraction is relentless.
Speaking of relentless tech advancement, let's shift to the other major AI development. Generative AI. AI is no longer just working behind the scenes selecting matches. It's actively moving into the chat window, acting as a kind of personal wingman or assistant.
This is arguably the most transformative recent development, yeah. It's powered by these large language models, LLMs, similar to the tech behind ChatGPT.
And they're being trained specifically for dating.
Exactly. These models are being fine-tuned on massive data sets of, well, human romantic interactions, often millions of successful and maybe unsuccessful chat transcripts from the platforms themselves, though anonymized, of course. They learn the nuances, The timing, the tone, the humor, the art of asking good questions.
And the practical application we're starting to see is apps integrating tools that suggest personalized opening lines, or even entire message replies.
Precisely. The AI analyzes your match's profile, their bio, prompts, photos, maybe cross-references it with their past chat behavior if available, and then offers you contextually tailored suggestions.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so if your match mentions a recent trip to Japan in their profile, the AI might suggest you ask something specific and maybe a little quirky about their favorite ramen spot, or maybe suggest a witty follow-up question about navigating the Tokyo subway, perhaps complete with a carefully chosen emoji.
So it instantly solves that awkward, what do I say first
Right.
problem, the blank page anxiety.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to initiating contact, which is a huge friction point for many users. Match Group, Tinder's parent company, is investing heavily in this, talking about AI profile coaches that help you pick your best photos and auto-generate text for your bio or messages.
The level of AI mediation is increasing really rapidly.
Okay.
It definitely points toward a future where we might outsource a lot of the sort of repetitive admin work of initial dating interactions.
We saw a pretty stark example of this potential future with that story about the developer who used ChatGPT to automate his Tinder life.
Oh yeah, that anecdote is still striking. He used ChatGPT to manage swiping and conversing with, what was it, 5,000 matches?
Something like that, yeah. The AI essentially screened and conducted initial chats until it identified candidates who seemed promising enough for a real-life meeting, and apparently it eventually led him to his fiancée.
It's a compelling story, but also kind of a profound illustration of delegation, isn't it?
Yeah.
The AI handled the sheer volume and, frankly, the emotional overhead of that initial screening process.
It really showed that these LLMs are becoming sophisticated enough to pass a kind of Turing test for romantic small talk, at least in the early stages. But it raises huge questions, right? Like, what was the human element missing from those 4,999 other interactions? And how much of the developer's true self did the AI mask or maybe augment in the process?
And this idea of full automation isn't just some developer's experiment. I read that the CEO of Bumble has openly predicted a future where personal AI agents could handle the entire online legwork, the searching, the matching, the initiating conversation, acting as your digital vetting assistant before you even get involved.
Right. Stepping back, the argument from proponents is that this kind of AI assistance might be necessary to combat the very real problem of dating fatigue or burnout.
Which is a huge issue for users. We hear that all the time.
Exactly. So the pitch is, if AI can handle the laborious, often low-stakes, repetitive first contact phase, then humans can save their precious time and emotional energy for connections that have already been somewhat vetted or qualified.
The trade-off, though, seems obvious. While it might solve the burnout problem, it potentially massively exacerbates the crisis of authenticity, which I know we want to dig into later. But first, let's use this understanding of the tech to compare how the major platforms actually implement AI.
Excellent point, because while the ultimate goal connection might be the same, the philosophical approach and the specific AI implementations vary dramatically across the board. You really see a split between platforms focused on high-scale sorting and others emphasizing deeper, more curated psychometrics.
Okay, let's start with the big one, the volume leader, Tinder. Their philosophy seems centered on real-time matching and high engagement. We know their core approach is ML-powered, continuously updating rankings, no more ELO score. What are the key AI features that really exemplify their optimization focus?
Tinder is all about maximizing the chances of a match happening right now. Their Smart Photos feature is a perfect example of this intense optimization.
How do smart photos work?
The AI basically continuously A/B tests the photos in your profile. It shows different photos first to different users who see your profile, tracks which ones get the most right swipes, and then prioritizes showing your statistically best photo more often. It's literally A/B testing your face and presentation in real time to maximize your swipe right rate.
Wow, okay. Very data-driven.
Extremely. They also, of course, rely heavily on photo verification using AI for basic security and trust. And critically, their planned AI profile coach features show they're moving deeper into that generative AI space, actively helping users curate their photos and text for maximum perceived success within the Tinder ecosystem.
Okay. Now moving to Bumble. Also swipe-based, also ML-driven, but with that unique constraint. Women have to initiate the conversation. How does that influence their AI approach?
Bumble's unique selling proposition is creating a safer, more respectful environment, particularly for women. So unsurprisingly, their AI innovation is heavily skewed towards safety features.
Like the private detector.
Exactly. Bumble developed the Private Detector. It's an AI computer vision tool that automatically detects potentially unsolicited nude images sent within chats. It then blurs the image and warns the recipient, giving them the choice to view it, block it, or report it.
And it's accurate.
They claim something like 98% accuracy, which is pretty remarkable. It's a really critical application of AI vision aimed squarely at combating online harassment, a major problem on dating platforms.
That's a clear differentiator. What else?
Like Tinder, they use photo verification. Philosophically, Bumble also makes a point of emphasizing user choice in a different way. They notably disallow users from filtering potential matches by race or ethnicity.
Oh, interesting. So the algorithm can't use that as an input.
According to Bumble, no. They state race has no role in their algorithm. This means their matching AI has to rely purely on observed behavioral preferences and other profile data rather than allowing users to make potentially biased demographic selections up front. They're also exploring those AI matchmaking agents for the future, like their CEO mentioned.
Okay, shifting gears now to Hinge, the platform that markets itself as designed to be deleted. That implies a different philosophy.
Completely. Hinge's philosophy is explicitly quality over quantity. They leverage that combination of machine learning and the stable marriage algorithm, the Gail Shapley concept we talked about earlier.
And their key feature embodying this is the most compatible daily suggestion, right?
Exactly. The AI behind most compatible is highly opinionated. It uses a deep analysis of your past successful interactions, who you liked, who also liked you back, to propose just one person each day whom it is highly confident you will mutually like.
Just one. That's a stark contrast to endless swiping.
It is. It's an explicit attempt to reduce swiping fatigue and decision overload by replacing sheer quantity with a single, high-probability AI-curated option. The AI is effectively saying, based on everything we know, this is your best shot today.
So, thinking back to Tinder, Hinge's AI is trying to remove alternatives by giving you the best one, whereas Tinder's AI is maybe trying to present the most enticing next alternative to keep you swiping.
That's a really good way to put it. It highlights the core difference in their goals' long-term match potential versus immediate engagement. And Hinge is also developing prompt suggestions using generative AI, again, but framed as helping users articulate their personality better in their profiles and offering tailored conversation ideas based on prompt answers, aiming for deeper initial chats.
Okay, finally, let's touch on the pioneers in deep data, Cupid and eHarmony. They really represent that high-dimensional data approach to compatibility.
Right. Cupid, as we discussed, is driven by that massive user-weighted compatibility algorithm. All those thousands of optional questions feed into that visible percentage score you see on profiles.
And how does that manifest in the user experience beyond just the score?
Well, this comprehensive data allows the platform to organize users into very specific, algorithmically chosen pools through features like stacks and discovery.
Right.
So you might get shown a stack of profiles specifically curated around people who are passionate about, say, environmental causes, or another stack for people who love indie films based on aligning question answers. It makes discovering niche communities easier.
More thematic discovery.
Exactly. And then there's eHarmony, which really anchors its entire matching system on decades of relationship research and psychology.
Still based on that long quiz?
Still based on that lengthy 100-plus item psychometric quiz. That data feeds their AI to produce a personalized compatibility score for each potential match, grounded in what their research suggests are the key drivers of long-term relationship success.
Then they use outcome data.
Critically, yes. eHarmony claims to continually refine its matching AI by using outcome data. They try to track which matches actually lead to reported marriages or long-term committed relationships, and they use that success feedback loop to improve their future predictions. It's an approach entirely driven by the pursuit of relationship quality and longevity, not just initial clicks.
So summarizing this really complex landscape, it feels like we have, on one side, high-scale behavioral sorting from Tinder and Bumble, prioritizing immediate engagement and activity.
Right, the find-a-match tonight approach.
And on the other side, we have more guided, deeper compatibility signals based on personality data and psychometrics from Hinge and eHarmony.
The find-a-compatible partner approach.
And all of them are increasingly incorporating generative AI to mediate interactions, reduce friction, and maybe coach users toward better outcomes, however the platform defines better.
It's a fascinating tension, isn't it? It's like this ongoing race to see which platform can best automate the, frankly, tedious administrative burdens of modern dating while still somehow delivering a genuinely compatible human being who can actually sustain a relationship offline.
And this huge shift, the algorithmic takeover, has fundamentally altered the landscape of courtship itself,
Yeah.
which leads us directly into part 4, the broader societal impacts. We've already established that online dating is totally mainstream now, displacing traditional ways of meeting.
The statistics are just staggering when you look at them. By the late 2010s, as we said, nearly 40% of heterosexual couples in the US reported meeting online. That normalization has absolutely crushed the stigma that used to exist around, meeting strangers through the
This
internet.
has to be something you whispered about.
Exactly. Now it's just how people meet. The algorithm has effectively displaced those traditional social roles that friends, family, community groups once played in introducing potential partners. And the immediate effect is that the dating pool has exploded way beyond your geographical or social proximity.
And that massive expansion of the pool has had at least one clear positive social benefit, right? Increased diversity in relationships.
Absolutely. That's one of the most consistently cited positive outcomes. These acts vastly expand the range of people you encounter, people you likely never would have met through traditional, often more segregated social circles.
And studies back this up.
Yeah, studies have shown that this explosion in access contributes directly to more interracial and intercultural relationships and marriages. It's a measurable social good. When Tinder launched, researchers actually correlated its rise with a documented increase in interracial marriages in the US. Algorithms, in this sense, removed some of the old gatekeeping functions of smaller, more homogeneous social networks.
Okay, that's a significant positive. However, this expansion also created what people often call the dating marketplace, and with that came some pretty significant psychological and social challenges, starting with the infamous swipe culture.
Ugh. Swipe culture. Yeah, the interface itself, that rapid fire, seemingly low stakes swiping, encourages quick judgments, often based primarily on looks or a very brief bio snippet. It can feel like browsing a massive catalog of people.
Which leads to the commodification of dating.
That's the term often used, yes. It can feel like you're shopping for a partner, discarding options with a flick of the finger. And this puts immense pressure on users to create this perfectly optimized, flawless profile. You need a wittier bio, slightly more professional or maybe glamorous photos, because the cost of being scrolled past is basically zero for the person doing the swiping.
That constant need for optimization creates what some experts call a performance mentality in dating, doesn't it?
Precisely. Authenticity can really suffer when everyone feels like they have to perform or game the system to get noticed. If you know, consciously or unconsciously, that your potential match has potentially hundreds, even thousands of other options readily available.
You feel compelled to present this hyper-curated best self version.
Exactly. And this is only getting amplified now by the availability of AI tools that can literally auto-generate a witty, compelling bio for you, or subtly edit your photos to smooth out imperfections or even change features. The risk is that profiles start to become aesthetically polished, but also somewhat homogeneous and, crucially, less genuinely reflective of the person behind them.
This ties directly into another critical psychological challenge, the paradox of choice. We have this unprecedented abundance of options, yet many users report feeling less satisfied, more anxious.
It's a classic psychological finding. Limitless options often lead to decision overload. That Pew survey data you mentioned earlier found 37% of online daters feel there are simply too many options to handle. It makes the process feel overwhelming rather than exciting or hopeful.
And why does too much choice lead to less satisfaction?
Well, psychologists observe that an overabundance of choice makes individuals less likely to feel confident in or commit to any single option they choose. There's this nagging feeling, fueled by the platform's design, that someone better or more compatible or more attractive must be just one more swipe away.
The notorious grass is greener syndrome, amplified by the interface.
Exactly. It can encourage serial dating, short-term connections, and undermine the willingness to invest in building a deeper relationship with one person. This mindset, the constant awareness that an infinite-seeming catalog of alternatives is always available, subtly reduces the perceived value and specialness of any single match you make.
Is there data comparing relationship satisfaction?
There is some research suggesting that couples who met offline report, on average, slightly higher relationship satisfaction and commitment levels compared to those who met online. Now, the reasons are complex, but one hypothesis is exactly this. Offline relationships often form without that backdrop of a readily accessible, infinite pool of alternatives constantly beckoning from your pocket.
The digital format has also normalized some really difficult social behaviors, most notably maybe ghosting.
Ugh, ghosting. It has become distressingly common, almost accepted as a part of the online dating experience. The data is pretty stark. Close to 30% of U.S. adults overall, and a much higher 42% of young adults aged 18 to 29 report having been ghosted by someone they were dating or talking to.
Why is it so prevalent online?
Because these connections often form with very little social overlap or accountability. Unlike ending things with someone you met through mutual friends or work, there's often no social consequence for simply disappearing on someone you met through an app. It enables people to abruptly drop contact without explanation, which is, frankly, emotionally damaging, and leads to widespread distrust and cynicism among users. People start expecting it.
And this constant need to optimize your profile, the anxiety about choice, the fear of being ghosted, the endless stream of often superficial small talk, it all contributes to a major phenomenon we hear about constantly: dating fatigue or burnout.
Absolutely. For many people, managing dating apps starts to feel less like a path to romance and more like a tedious administrative burden, a part-time job they don't enjoy but feel compelled to do.
Which brings us back to AI.
Exactly. This widespread burnout is precisely why proponents of AI assistance are so excited about integrating generative AI more deeply. They pitch these tools as a necessary solution to handle the repetitive, often draining tasks of screening profiles and initiating those first few contacts. The idea is to relieve the user of the burnout associated with managing potentially hundreds of matches and superficial chats.
Okay, so AI tackles the admin burden. But the fundamental question remains, doesn't it? Does outsourcing so much of that initial human process, the awkwardness of the first interaction, the vulnerability of crafting your own first message, the serendipity of stumbling through a conversation, does that risk losing the essential human element that actually makes dating meaningful and potentially rewarding in the first place?
That is the essential trade-off, I think, and it transitions us perfectly into the deepest, most complex concerns surrounding algorithmic romance, the ethical and psychological toll. These are the really thorny issues.
Let's start with perhaps the largest, most systemic ethical concern inherent in these recommendation systems: the potential for bias and discrimination. We know algorithms learn from the data they're fed, and human dating behavior, unfortunately, often reflects existing societal prejudices.
That's the core conflict, and it's a serious one. Numerous studies have confirmed that, sadly, racial bias is rife in online dating. We know from analyzing data from platforms like OkCupid, for instance, that historically, certain demographics, notably Black women and Asian men, received significantly lower response rates or attractiveness ratings from other users compared to other groups.
So if an algorithm is trained purely on optimizing for match success based on that historical biased user behavior,
It can inadvertently learn, mirror, and potentially even amplify those existing societal prejudices. It learns that certain matches are less likely based on past user actions, even if those actions were rooted in bias, not objective compatibility.
this raises that really difficult philosophical dilemma of preference versus prejudice, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Where do you draw the line, especially inside a black box algorithm?
The line is incredibly thin and blurry, particularly when we can't see exactly how the proprietary algorithms are weighted. Even if apps like Tinder and Bumble take positive steps like removing explicit race or ethnicity filters, which they have largely done, the algorithms can potentially still learn to use proxies.
Proxies, like what?
Well, they learn complex patterns. For example, if a large group of users within one demographic consistently swipes left on or fails to engage with profiles from another demographic, the algorithm might start subtly downranking or showing profiles from the avoided group less often to the first group. It classifies this pattern as a successful prediction of user preference, even if the underlying cues it's picking up on are things correlated with race or socioeconomic status, like neighborhood data inferred from photos, hobbies, or even linguistic patterns in the bio.
So the algorithm isn't explicitly told filter by race, but it learns patterns that effectively replicate racial bias because that bias exists in the user data it's learning from. It amplifies collective user biases into a systemic sorting pattern.
That's the major concern. It's sometimes referred to as a form of algorithmic redlining within the dating space. Researchers rightly warn that these platforms wield unmatched structural power to shape who meets whom, and we need to be intensely wary of biased inputs being amplified at this massive scale.
Is there a good analogy for this?
The cautionary tale often cited is that 2016 AI beauty contest. An AI was trained on images to judge beauty, But the training data was heavily skewed towards white faces, the result. The AI selected almost exclusively white winners, not because of malice, but because its data reflected existing biases. When the product being sorted is people's potential life partners, these algorithmic biases have deeply personal and societal consequences.
Okay, that's the bias issue. Moving into the psychological realm, let's talk about addiction. Why are these apps so notoriously difficult to put down for some users?
It's really a masterclass in behavioral science, often leveraged intentionally in the design. The core mechanic, the constant swiping, is famously compared to a slot machine.
The variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
Precisely. You engage in a repetitive, low-effort action, the swipe, which is rewarded intermittently and unpredictably. You never know when the next swipe will deliver that high-value reward, a match notification, a like, which triggers a powerful dopamine rush in the brain's reward pathway.
It's the uncertainty that hooks you. You keep pulling the lever because the reward might come next time.
Exactly. Each little notification, each new face, each potential match is a precisely calibrated microdose of dopamine, a hit of validation that engages that primal reward circuitry. This compulsive loop is so effective, as you know, it even led to that lawsuit filed in early 2024.
Right, accusing major dating apps of using addictive, game-like features and psychological tricks to deliberately hook users.
Yes, alleging they trap users in a kind of perpetual pay-to-play loop, often pushing them towards buying premium features, like seeing who liked you or getting profile boosts, to escape the feeling of being stuck or invisible in the free tier.
And while company executives, like Hinge's CEO, for example, often publicly state their goal is to get people off the app and into relationships.
The fundamental business model, which relies on keeping users engaged and often upselling them premium subscriptions or features, is constantly in tension, if not outright conflict, with genuine user well-being and finding a long-term match quickly.
That inherent conflict seems key to understanding the addiction potential.
It really is the engine of the loop. And ironically, this compulsion can lead to what's sometimes called the loneliness paradox. Apps designed to foster connection can actually end up deepening feelings of isolation for some users.
How does that happen?
Users who might already be feeling lonely or anxious can fall into excessive app usage, seeking that temporary dopamine hit, that quick salve of validation from a match or a message. But when those matches turn out to be superficial, or the user inevitably experiences rejection or gets ghosted,
It crashes harder.
the subsequent emotional crash can be significant. It can erode self-esteem, increase anxiety, and sometimes lead to depression, paradoxically making them feel even more isolated than before they started swiping. They scroll to fend off loneliness, yet the process itself often leaves them feeling emptier.
And this feeling of emptiness might be exacerbated by the threat to authenticity that we touched on earlier. AI offers both verification, which is critical, but also new, powerful methods of deception through augmentation.
Right. Generative AI is essentially, as you put it, the ultimate ghostwriter effect. It makes it easier than ever before to present this perfectly optimized, witty, engaging, but potentially quite misleading version of yourself. Auto-written bios, AI-suggested messages.
The worry is,
The worry is profound. If every profile becomes polished by AI and every initial conversation is jump-started or even fully managed by an LLM assistant, does the dating pool risk becoming just a collection of AI-curated personas? How can you really trust that you're connecting with a genuine human when their introductory banter might have been crafted by a machine designed to maximize engagement? Users inevitably develop a deep sense of distrust. Are you talking to the person or their AI rep?
and beyond distrust, relying on AI to manage our social interactions seems like it could carry a very real cost to our own human skills. Academics worry about the erosion of real-life social abilities.
That's a major concern. If people become overly dependent on AI assistants to craft witty opening lines, navigate awkward pauses, or even sustain entire conversations online, they genuinely risk having difficulty once they arrive on real-life dates without their phone to help, as one researcher put it.
The crutch becomes indispensable.
Potentially. This dependency could increase social anxiety in face-to-face situations and encourage a retreat back into the safer, more controlled, algorithmically optimized digital comfort zone. We might be entering a kind of post-authenticity era in dating, where genuine vulnerability is minimized in favor of smooth AI-assisted performance.
Which brings us finally to the overarching ethical challenge that looms over all of this: algorithmic control and the almost total lack of transparency. The vast majority of users have absolutely no idea why a specific match was shown to them, or why another seemingly good match was withheld. Why does this black box nature matter so much?
It matters immensely because it means users have effectively ceded a significant amount of autonomy in one of the most important areas of life to an unseen, unknown gatekeeper, an algorithm whose proprietary incentives are completely opaque to them.
So users are left just guessing.
Constantly speculating. Is the algorithm genuinely trying to prioritize my best long-term match based on deep compatibility? Or is it subtly nudging me towards profiles that are more likely to keep me swiping longer, maximizing my engagement time for their metrics? Or maybe it's showing me profiles strategically to encourage me to finally pay for that premium subscription to unlock more features or see who liked me. The opacity breeds distrust and makes the entire system feel potentially rigged, or at least not fully aligned with the user's best interests.
Because we just don't know what it's optimizing for.
Exactly. Because the precise mathematical models and weighting factors behind these proprietary matching algorithms are incredibly closely guarded trade secrets, it's virtually impossible for independent external researchers, regulators, or even the users themselves to audit them effectively. We can't easily check for the subtle amplification of societal biases we discussed earlier, or for hidden commercial incentives that might conflict with finding genuine connection.
So the platforms hold all the cards.
They hold immense structural power in shaping societal mating patterns, arguably more than any institution in history. And without meaningful transparency or oversight, we simply cannot hold that power accountable. This reality has led to increasing calls from academics, ethicists, and even some policymakers for independent audits, greater data access for researchers, and potentially clear regulations to ensure that dating AI prioritizes genuine user well-being and fairness over maximizing profit or engagement at any cost.
Wow. This has been an incredibly complex, fascinating deep dive into the world of algorithmic Cupid. It's clear AI has undeniably expanded our romantic horizons in many ways, certainly reduced stigma, maybe even contributed positively to diversity, and it's definitely responsible for creating millions of successful relationships.
Absolutely, we can't deny the successes.
But it's equally clear that it has introduced some serious new psychological burdens, that choice overload, the normalization of ghosting, the pervasive dating fatigue, and profound ethical challenges around bias, the erosion of authenticity, and this fundamental lack of transparency and control.
The transformation is absolutely massive, and it's still very much underway. As AI moves further from just matching into full conversational mediation, we have to really recognize the shift in the value chain. AI is proving itself to be a surprisingly capable matchmaker and now even a chat assistant, potentially relieving us of some of the burden of screening. But as we hand over more and more of this process,
We need to be mindful of the cost.
we have to consider the core philosophical question about the future of human courtship. What are we optimizing for, and what might we lose?
So wrapping this up, what's the final, maybe provocative thought we want to leave our listener mulling over?
I think we have to constantly remember that while AI might excel at finding patterns, crunching data, and predicting initial attraction or conversational compatibility, the things that actually build and sustain a deep, meaningful, lifelong relationship, true chemistry, emotional intimacy, vulnerability, shared values, unwavering commitment, those remain profoundly, fundamentally human. There's a quote I saw that stuck with me. If your AI talks primarily to your date's AI, ultimately you're just getting a report on two AIs talking, not two people actually connecting.
That's a powerful image. Bots talking to bots.
Isn't it? The goal, hopefully, should be to use AI as a powerful tool to enhance or facilitate genuine human connection, maybe broaden our opportunities, but not to inadvertently build a wall between us and the messy, imperfect, essential human vulnerability that real love requires.
And that really leaves you, our listener, with the ultimate question, perhaps, as you navigate your next most compatible suggestion or swipe through profiles. How much of that essential, messy, sometimes awkward, but ultimately wonderful human element are you willing or wise to hand over to the machines in the most intimate matters of the heart?